Bonsoir, bonsoir. Vous êtes là? Oui.
Good evening. Good evening.
On dirait qu'ils ne sont pas prêts pour la cérémonie de clôture.
Is everybody ready? That's better.
Donc le moment est arrivé. On arrive au terme des 5 jours de voyage. On vous avait promis un voyage cinématographique. Moi j'ai une question pour vous. Est-ce que vous avez voyagé?
So we have a question for you. The theme of this edition was the voyage, or to travel. Do you all feel like you all had a chance to travel?
Yes! Okay, hopefully, j'espère que ça a été des beaux voyages en tout cas. Et maintenant on arrive au moment un peu fatidique où on va devoir annoncer certains résultats puisque vous avez voté après chacune des séances et on a aussi un jury de court-métrage, un jury du long-métrage qui ont eux aussi voté.
Okay, so now it's come to the time where we can get to the more essential parts where we have the votes, the audience votes. We also have the short film from the jury votes and the feature film votes. And before we get to that, we're going to thank everybody.
Yeah, so I was talking about the panelists that we had.
So we had several panelists, so we want to thank the panelists that we had, and we're sure that many of you were able to see, a lot of the films that we also take part in some of those activities during the week. So we would like to thank all of the volunteers that have helped us during the week. It's impossible for us to run the festival without the volunteers that you have seen selling t-shirts to you, taking your tickets, helping you with information. So we would like to thank Coco Flahar and her team for all of the help and kind help that they've given during the week. Okay, so now we would like to call to the stage the short film jury. They're the ones who decided on the winner out of the four films that we had in competition.
Donc sous vos applaudissements s'il vous plaît, Sandra Luce.
Hi, my name is Nadira Shakur, and I'm the co-founder of NollywoodWeek Week Film Festival, along with Serge Noukoué, which we have started in 2013. We are celebrating our 13th edition this year, and we've discovered over the years, it's been many changes. Every edition is unique. There's been different things happening in terms of just the change of the audience, in terms of the change of the type of films, and where every year is a new adventure, so to speak. So this year our theme for the 13th edition is the theme of, in French, voyager. In English, you could say to travel or a journey or the voyage. And that's because there's a lot of voyages that are happening with this. One, just the festival itself, it's here to connect the Francophone and the Anglophone audience. So there's the journey of, the Anglophone with Nigeria coming to France and showing their films to a French-speaking audience. There's also the traveling through film. Film takes us away to a new place. It makes us feel like we're in a new world. And then we also have films that kind of more literally show that as well. Our opening film, East West Love, talks about it. It's a co-production between Kenya and Nigeria. So we see this journey that's happening in the literal sense of showing kind of the different Africas coming together. And our closing night film is a journey which takes place in Japan with a Nigerian director that's talked about Nigerian story, but taking place in a small town in Japan.
We're going to have Sarah tell us a little bit about some of the films that they enjoyed and get a little bit more information about what they thought.
Merci, bonsoir à tous. Alors du coup je représente le jury des courts-métrages. J'étais accompagnée par Hervé Moukoukou et Alex Louisa. Et nous avons été assez surpris par la qualité du travail, l'audace surtout, c'est ce qui nous a vraiment frappé. Le choix a été assez difficile puisqu'on a eu 4 propositions très pertinentes, courageuses, très créatives, innovantes. Et notre choix, j'annonce aussi maintenant le résultat, j'attends un peu la traduction.
So she was very surprised, pleasantly surprised by the selection of short films. She said that they were very innovative, they were very well put together, let's just say.
Yeah, so in our film, in our film festival, and since the beginning of our festival, it's been very important for us to, even though we show a selection about 8 films in selection, and we have other films around that, it's always been important that we avoid reducing the industry into one single story. So we avoid, creating a single narrative and stereotypes. So we always try to take a selection. So in the other years, you will see we'll have horror films, romantic comedies, different genres to show the diversity of films, so we don't get into the association of African cinema means a drama, or African cinema looks like this. The diversity is important because that way people can see how prolific the African film industry is and lead to more collaborations and more work and larger audiences at the end of the day, which is the most important. So in order to create our selection, because before when we first started, we only were showing Nigerian films. About 4 years ago, we opened basically from the time of COVID up until now, we opened up our selection to the diaspora because we found there's many filmmakers from the diaspora making Nollywood-inspired stories, meaning that they decided to not wait for a green light from a big producer and to make their own films. And these films also resonate vice versa with the different audiences. And so now we currently have films that come from Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. So in order for us to get these films, we do it different ways. The festival is presented by Okada Media Distribution, which Serge and I are also the co-founders of. So through our distribution company, we're very aware of a lot of the productions that are already happening. We also attend many different festivals, and we also open up our selection process early so that these filmmakers from different countries can send it to us as well to make sure that we get a diverse selection that we can go through, and we're really presenting, our curated selection of what we see as the best representation from all of these different places.
Before we get to now the Audience Choice Award, which is the foundation of our festival, this is the award we've been giving since the beginning and is the genesis of the festival, because we want to know what the public wants to watch. And a lot of times you have festivals that show films, especially from Africa, that is not really the films that the population wants to watch. And we represent Okada Media, which is the main presenter of the festival. And as distributors, this is very important, obviously, to know what the audience cares about. So as distributors, that's why we have the Audience Choice Award. So thank you all for voting during the week, watching all the films during the week, and we're going to soon be able to discover who the winning film is.
Okay, yeah, so for this edition, some of the films like where you can travel to through the screen. So opening night, as I mentioned, we had a film that took place in Mombasa in Kenya, which shows some of the beautiful coastal views of the Indian Ocean. Today we have a film that's going to take place in Cameroon. What's about to screen right now is Zero, which is based in Senegal. Earlier than that, we were showing some series that are from the UK and showing the diaspora communities there. So we have different films that still come back. On Sunday, we have The Fisherman that's also playing, which is a film from Ghana. So you get to travel through film, through culture, but we're all doing it right here all together in Paris, which is the hub of cinema and the birthplace of cinema. So even though we started as a Nigerian film festival, some of the new things that we've done since COVID is really open up the platform for many different filmmakers. We have noticed every year we have many more filmmakers, producers, investors coming from different places within Africa and even the diaspora. We even had a film from Trinidad and Tobago one year, another from Martinique. We also had some from South Africa the years before. But the importance of this is that Nigeria has been the platform because of the number of films that they make, but this doesn't take away from any of the other films that are happening. And a lot of filmmakers from other parts of Africa are noticing this, and they're coming to the festival to have those interactions. We've also been asked to present Nollywood Week in different various countries. That is not on the projects as of yet. But we do smaller showcases. We have done collaborations with other festivals where we will have our selection in their festivals. Some in the Caribbean we've done before, some in South Africa. So we do look to do more of those collaborations to bring these films to a wider audience, as that's our main goal. So going back to my what I was saying earlier of getting out of the single story and the single narrative, for us, we really try to not just stay into one thematic for the festival. We know that a lot of times in Africa, most of the traditional films have been dramas, especially dramas that might take place in a household. But we open up the theme to romantic comedies. Our opening night film was a romantic comedy. On Sunday, we'll have some thrillers. We've had a musical last night. So we really try to make sure that we're showing all the different types of storytelling, all the different types of themes that we see coming out. And it's also changed within the industry. It's a reflection of what is actually happening in the industry right now, is that a lot of people are looking for new ways of storytelling. One of the most interesting ones that we've had that screened yesterday is Memory of Princess Mumbi, which is a Kenyan director where he used AI, and it's a futuristic, but it's something that you cannot necessarily call a science fiction, but it's a mix of different thematics. And that's just an example of how a lot of filmmakers today are pushing the envelope a bit more, and are showing that there's different mediums of telling stories, different ways of telling a story, and creating their own language, their own cinematic language, which is exciting to see. When we screen a lot of these films, a lot of our audience is surprised to see how many women are actually working women within the film industry, especially in Nigeria, but I would say across a lot of different countries in Africa, but especially Nigeria. They really lead the way in terms of women behind the camera, not just only in front of the camera. The film that we showed yesterday, Evie Superstar, it's a film that's produced by, directed by, starring, it's a very strong female team. On Sunday, tomorrow, we have a film called Onobirin. Again, it's a female writer, a female producer. The film we showed on opening night, that East West Love, produced again by two women, and directed by a Tanzanian director, actually, Seiko Samti, that was at the head of that one. So a lot of the films are actually produced by, EP'd by, directed by women, and even with strong female characters, and we can see how that translates into the film. We can see how the vision and the view of the woman is different when you do have such a strong female team behind it. So we also see that we are out of some of these stereotypical roles of what a woman should be or how society tries to portray women. And it shows a much more unified vision of women, which is exciting to see on camera, and it's a good message for everyone. Yeah, so this year we had a interesting thematic kind of running through the three of our panels. Our first panel was on the rights of music and film and the role that plays. That one was supported and presented by SACEM, one of the main players in music rights here in Europe, and they're also doing a lot of work in Nigeria now. That one we spoke and looked at how you use music and how individuals and creatives can actually add to their income by licensing music to films. And we looked at all the different rights that are involved behind that. And of course, in that discussion, AI came up as well. And so we looked at how AI plays a role in that. The next day, we had a panel on AI and cinema in Africa, which was very interesting because the topic and it's a current debate about how AI is affecting the film industry. And what we are hearing mainly through a lot of the channels is about how AI is affecting Hollywood or the West. But we very seldomly hear about how AI is affecting filmmakers in Africa, and the story is actually very different. It almost evens in levels of playing field, and we had a lot of interesting discussions with a panel that was from various parts of Africa. Tunisia, Kenya was represented, Nigeria was represented, so we were able to get into a really good discussion about how AI is playing a role in Africa and kind of where we see that hitting. And this morning we had a discussion on microdramas with Youssef Al-Qadir, who came from the US to talk about the microdrama he's currently working on. It's a co-production or produced with the help of Nigeria. and looking at that. So this year was really focused, as we always try to do, as we're called the Now Festival, look at what's now. We always try to look at who are the new filmmakers, but also have this educational and panel discussion to see what is happening now on the ground in the film industry and where that is going. So filmmakers have the tools and the understanding and even just a chance to network and speak, so that they're not behind the curve, but seeing what's at the forefront, because Nigeria and a lot of African filmmaking that is indie filmmaking has had to quickly adapt and usually be the early adapters to the changes in the industry. So it's important for us to have panels about these early adaptations, and as we move forward to see, where the industry is hitting. So those are some of the panels we had. It was very interesting discussions and lively discussions. In terms of a lot of the visual imagery that we use to represent the festival and our posters, so for the last several editions, it was, I think, starting from about 2019, we've used a woman with a large afro and different variations every year, but a woman with a large afro and usually a camera held over one eye. And this year we've changed that and we've moved to now this man with these virtual glasses looking at cinema. And the reason actually for why we had this woman presented before, and it was not coincidental. We didn't want to use an actual person, because once you use an actual person or an influencer, it associates that person to the festival and it can take on a different meaning. So it's important to have a fictional character, but the fictional character that we wanted to use, we wanted her to be unapologetically Black, unapologetically African. This was very intentional, as we are in Paris. And Paris is the city of, like I said, the city of cinema. You can find a festival from every country here. And for us, when we started 13 years ago, we couldn't find a festival that was specific to Nigeria, which is one of the largest film industries in the world. So it was very important for us to do that. And in doing that, we made sure that we wanted people to stop in their tracks and see that this was a festival for them. So we wanted to really have something that represented our main viewership, our main population. But then after doing several years of having a woman, we said, we need to also show the Black man, because a lot of times also there's a negative representation of Black men in society. And we just felt it was important to have that, also to create this connection with people and to rewrite the narrative. So this year we're very happy and pleased to have Thomas Ngijol. I'm going to make sure I have the right pronunciation because we talked about it on opening night, for our parrain, our film ambassador. Last year we had Isa Maiga, and this year we took on someone who, yes, he's known as a comedian, he's known for his humor, but he's taken on a more serious role lately, where his film that we're screening in a few hours, Indomptable, he serves as the director and the lead actor in this film, and he'll have more of a masterclass about it later. But it's important for us a lot of times to embrace the local stars that have made it here in France, that are coming. They're seen as diaspora, but again, it's about that connection. And so whenever we have someone as our parrain, our ambassadors, they're able to connect with the industry and to see what we're doing here and the people we're bringing as well from Africa. And it creates more of an alliance, more of a connection. It makes it an easier entrance for the local population here to have, kind of a starting point of understanding what we're doing, to come to feel that this is their location, this is their festival, they can come here, they see something that's familiar, and then they can now connect to, and like we said about the voyage to Nigeria, to these other places, and it just forms more alliances. So it's important for us to have these actors, these comedians, whether they're doing comedy, whether they're doing writing or filmmaking, it's important for us to, again, acknowledge the actors that are on location here in France of African heritage and what they've done, and make that connection with what's happening there, because it's all connected. So Just right before the festival launched, there was a lot of talk about In My Father's Shadow, which is a recent Nigerian film that was just shown at Cannes. And this, for us as a Nigerian festival, it holds two varying opinions or varying feelings attached to it. On the one hand, we're very excited to see a Nigerian film being represented at Cannes Film Festival. Of course, as our mission is to open up the audience, this opens up more audiences' eyes to the filmmaking power of Nigeria and what's happening there. And a lot of people have had really great reviews and really great remarks from it. But on the other hand, we also acknowledge that this film is a British production. Most of the people behind it are from the UK, so it's not authentically a Nigerian entry. The same as it's being, sent to the Oscars is not a Nigerian entry to the Oscars, even though it is a Nigerian story. So we're happy about this, but we're hoping to keep continuing so that we can get to the point where we actually have a Nigerian entry that was produced and especially financed by Nigeria, and that can also be seen in Cannes and also be seen in the local theaters. And so we're still working on getting to that place. Nollywood Week has helped with this in terms of having some regular screenings, but we really hope to get to the point when somebody can go to a movie theater outside of the festival and watch a Nigerian film without it having to first pass through Cannes. One of the exciting events that we've added to the festival that is now going to have its 4th edition or 3rd edition is the Nolly Kids segment that we do. This takes place at 10 a.m. on Sundays. This is a very special segment for us because this is how we introduce films from Africa, films from the diaspora to our younger audience. Especially these children are growing up in the diaspora, growing up in France, and they have a limited opportunity to see some of these new productions that are being made. And so what we do is this year we have a partnership with Toontopia in Nigeria, which is a children's film festival. And we also have a lot of other collaborations with other animation studios within Nigeria, within Kenya, within Côte d'Ivoire. And these animation studios that are working on new projects, we are able to have their film screened here. They're not things that are always readily available or on a lot of the large channels. And their stories really speak about the history. A lot of them are about celebrating who the child is, understanding that it's okay for them to look the way they look, to understand their history. We have one called Keiko that will show about the Mali Empire and teach us, some more history. Another one, Uli and Tata, that shows nursery rhymes from different regions within Kenya. So it's really about not just creating a collective memory of what's happening and taking place, is creating community, and especially in today's age where a lot of children do not have the cinema culture anymore because we've gone into a system of individual screens. It also kind of teaches children the understanding of a community and being a part of something bigger. And we also do it in collaboration with Club Read. And so Club Read comes and then they'll read to the children some books that are also about African history and African stories. And so this is a nice filler. So it's not just sitting and screening something, but they also get a level of understanding with it. Last year we had an animator from one of the animations come and talk to the kids a little bit about how he makes his animation. So they're getting a very rich understanding of culture, but they're also, again, feeling like this is their space and they can understand they have a place here, which is always very important because the power of the image, at the end of the day, it tells us who we are and tells us what we're able to do. And this is important to start this very young. So what we have found over time is that the audiences have changed. When we first started with our first edition, we had to even explain what Nigeria was, what Nollywood was, what kind of films now you can expect to find. And it was really a discovery for many audiences based here in France. But then there's been other platforms that have launched, such as Nollywood TV, such as Netflix became global, and they started taking on Nollywood films on their platform. And so audiences now have much more access to Nollywood than they had before. And even just in terms of events and activities that show African films, that has changed tremendously over time, where now there's lots of events, and so it's not as hard to find films to watch that are from African directors. Currently, there's several African films that are out right now, which we never would see earlier. And I would say that then with COVID, we noticed that has really changed habits of going out to cinema. That has decreased a lot of the habits going out to cinema, and that has also changed in terms of investment into events like this. So with sponsorship, a lot of people are looking towards putting it towards tech and AI and to online avenues. And as a festival that remains for us, we know the importance of having these in-person connections. We see the importance of it when the crowds and people come and connect and the audiences can discuss the film after. It's very different than watching it at home. So even if we're dealing with some fluctuations in terms of sponsorships and fluctuations in terms of audiences, it's a lot of other of my colleagues in the festival space that I'm speaking to. We all see that the importance is still here and it's necessary, and everything's a cycle. And so we look forward to remaining in this space so that people can continue to have these connections, because this is how we keep our humanity. This is how we create our communities. And this is where us as humans need to reside and to continue to empower and to push for. To keep the conversation going outside of the festival, we also are on social media where you can find us. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We also have a YouTube page where you can find a lot more information. You can find some of the behind the scenes conversations, some of the online webinars or podcasts that we do, as well as all the trailers of the films that we have shown in the festival. So to find us, even on our website, you can just put in Nollywood Week or NollywoodWeek.com for the website. And yeah, we're always open to discussion and continuing the information further. And make sure to follow us so you can be updated for the next editions, or when we have our submissions are open, or any other information that is coming up. So tomorrow, the 10th of May, is the last day of the film festival, where it's one of our biggest days. As I mentioned before, we start with Nolly Kids. That is followed by a documentary with an interesting debate after about African superheroes. And then this will be followed by several films, and it ends with our closing night, which is when we hand the audience award to the winning film from all the votes of the week. We also have the jury prizes that are handed out. And then we have our closing night film, Ogene, which is in collaboration with Clam Films. And then we finish the night with our always fun Afrobeats party, where we have live DJs and we turn the cinema hall into a nightclub and celebrate the end of the festival and look forward to the next year. Join us next year in 2027. See you.